Dr. Spetzler was her neurosurgeon who reported on this. A cardiologist that I interviewed, Dr. Sabum, also studied the case. There was a resident, Dr. Green, who has also testified because he was there when all this happened. Then she claims she traveled, and this is another commonality of near-death experiences, through a tunnel to a place of exquisite beauty.
This is one of the most bizarre near-death experiences I've ever heard. So let's get right into it, guys. Shout out to Sean Ryan. This is absolutely crazy.
Initially, I was like, well, maybe this is just hallucinating, or, maybe it's just something that happens in the brain, or, there have been a lot of alternate explanations. And in the new book, and Imagine the God of Heaven, I go into the 10 points of evidence that really did convince me. One of them is veridical observation. So when a person dies, when their heart stops beating, no brain waves, say they have a heart attack, and they have a near-death experience, they say they leave their body. Usually they're initially up above their body in the room where their resuscitation is happening. And they commonly say, I was still myself. Most say I had a body, but it was like a spiritual body. And not with 5 senses, more like 50 senses and blended senses, which that's hard to describe.
What does that mean, blended senses?
Well, say things like, I couldn't, it's not that I just saw it, I heard it. I didn't just smell it, but I could see the smell too. Or
So like an intuition, maybe.
No, not intuition, blended senses. So the senses we think of sight, smell, touch, taste, all that, but an aroma would also have a sound to it.
Okay.
And a visual. I don't know. I'm just telling you what they say. I've never experienced anything like that. But they're initially up above their body, and they're watching what's happening in the room of their resuscitation. Now this was key, because when they are resuscitated, when they come back, they can report observations that can be checked out as either yes or no, right? Either that really happened or that didn't. So one of the key ones that early on really convinced me, or didn't convince me, but it really got my attention. But there are many like this. Is Pam Reynolds. She was a well-known singer, I think from Nashville, actually. And she had a deep brain aneurysm. And she was going to die unless they did this radical exploratory surgery, which is more common now. But what they have to do is they have to lower the body temperature down to 50 degrees Fahrenheit. They drain the brain completely of all blood. They have to make sure the brain is completely shut down, because they're going to have to go down deep into the brain to fix the aneurysm. And so as a result, they're monitoring with an EEG. They tape the eyes shut so there are no external stimulation to the eyes. They put 100 decibel clickers in the ears so that then they can make sure there's nothing registering in the brain, just flat EEG.
Wow.
Okay, so this is all counts of clinical death are certain for the surgery to happen, and not many survive the surgery. So it only happens when there's no other option usually.
That's crazy. So they essentially just kill the person. Does the heart stop beating? I don't know if he said that. Sorry if I missed it. But everything else, the brain is completely turned off. No senses, no nothing. But then he gets into the story of somehow the person knows everything going on. That's crazy.
Pam is going into this surgery, and she's put into the deepest state of anesthesia for 2 hours. And Dr. Spetzler was her neurosurgeon who reported on this. Another a cardiologist that I interviewed, Dr. Sabum, also studied the case. There was a resident, Dr. Green, who has also testified because he was there when all this happened. So you've got medical doctors who are confirming what Pam ended up saying.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, and what people don't realize is, like, these accounts have been written up in the Journal of the American Medical Association, in the Lancet, Europe's most prestigious medical journal, in psychiatry, in about 900 peer-reviewed scholarly journals that have reported on near-death experiences, because there's something there, right? I mean, all these medical doctors wouldn't, they'd be like, yeah. And that's what many of them are at first, like, I never heard of that. But they didn't ask. And when they start asking, people start reporting. So Pam says she was out of her body and she's watching what's happening. And some of the things she later reports is that there was a female doctor down by her legs, saying we can't find it. I can't find it. And the male doctor, Dr. Spetzler, said, try the other leg. And she registered that as strange because it was brain surgery. Like, what are they doing down by my legs? Well, they were trying to find an artery down there. And then it was about over an hour into surgery that they actually took out the saw. And, most people have never seen a brain saw. And, you think it's a saw, right? It's just going to cut. And she reported that when they took it out, it's called the Midas Rex. And she said it actually looked like an electric toothbrush. And they had it almost looked like my dad's socket set, she said, wow, with all these blades in it that they opened up. They didn't open that up until an hour into the deepest state of anesthesia and an hour into surgery, when she couldn't have seen anything. Her eyes are taped shut. There was no brain waves. So where's this memory being registered, right?
Wow.
Because she's got 100 decibel clickers in her ears, and they're monitoring that there's no activity in the EEG in her brain.
That just brings us back to the other video I reacted to with Sean McDowell. There's something outside of just your brain alone that is allowing you to think arbitrarily, which is the soul. Guys, I don't know if this is amazing proof for God or what. I don't know what's going to ever convince you, but this is absolutely amazing.
Yet she perfectly reports about that. Then she claims she traveled, and this is another commonality of near-death experiences, through a tunnel to a place of exquisite beauty. She felt the presence, I think it was of her grandfather, and knew that God was there, this God of light and love, who told her she must go back. She comes back, and as she's coming back, they're sewing her up and they're playing Hotel California. And she hears that. And then they shocked her to get her heart started again, not once, but twice. And she reports that.
Why were they playing music? Do they always play music while they're doing surgery?
So when she is revived, all these things that she reports checked out. Now, you could say, oh, that's just, that's a good story, right?
Who's she reporting this to?
To the doctors.
Is this right after surgery?
Yeah.
What are they saying?
Well, I was just in a movie called After Death, which was just in the theaters this fall. And you can see Dr. Green, who was a resident there, and he says she reported things she should not have seen. Dr. Spetzler, who was the neurosurgeon, he's done interviews. He said the same thing. Dr. Sabum, who was also in the movie, he researched it and said, yeah, I mean, she should not have been able to report that.
Wow. Now,
that's not a one-off. That's the thing. So another cardiologist that I spoke with, Dr. Pim van Lommel in the Netherlands, in Holland, he was the one who actually wrote the case up in the Lancet, Europe's medical journal, of a man who was found dead in a park, brought in, or he didn't have a heartbeat. They brought him into the ER. They were going to shock him, but they had to intubate him because he wasn't breathing. And the nurse found dentures. So took took the dentures out, put him in the lower drawer of the crash cart. They intubated him. They shocked him. They got his heart started again. But he never came to in the ER. They wheel him out, put him in another room. A week later, he comes to. And he's asking, where are his dentures? You lost my dentures. And then he sees the nurse in the hallway and says, wait, that nurse, get that nurse. That nurse knows where my dentures are. And then he explains that he was in the ER up above trying to get everybody's attention. And he described the doctors, how many were there, who was there, the nurses, what they were wearing, and how that nurse had taken his dentures out and put it in the lower drawer of the cart with all the bottles on it. And that's where they found his dentures.
Wow.
So he writes this up in the Lancet.
Guys, imagine, where's my dentures? I don't know why I made that voice, but God is good. And the more technology comes out, the more we see how amazing God is. The more we realize God's real. There's a supernatural. There's things outside of space and time and matter. There's things that we can't comprehend or understand, but God is working, whatever that may be. Difficult, it's hard, but we can trust in God. So you guys were made for a purpose, to have a relationship with Jesus. I encourage you to seek to know him and to have a relationship with him. In the description below, you will be able to click a link to help you to decide to follow Jesus for the first time. Do that today.